Coming up this week, we have a lunar eclipse in Virgo. This eclipse is a lunar eclipse, so it's a full moon and it follows the previous new moon. So we began this moon cycle with a solar eclipse in Aquarius, and this week's lunar eclipse in Virgo brings well, not quite full circle, right? But half circle to illuminate something and bring something into our awareness as we move through the intense energies of eclipse season. I'm Marina Orms here with your Astro perspective for Sunday, March 1st. This week's lunar eclipse in Virgo takes place on Tuesday morning Pacific time, so March 3rd, at 3:37 a.m. Pacific, and the moon at 12 degrees Virgo opposing the sun at 12 degrees Pisces. We also, just before this lunar eclipse, this full moon, we have Mars going into Pisces on Monday morning. So just a little bit less than 24 hours before the exact full moon, Mars changes signs to go into Pisces. Mars is important because Mars is the ruling planet of the sign that Saturn and Neptune are in. And if you've been paying attention and following me, I've had a guest series really diving deep into the energies of the Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries at 0 degrees, extraordinarily rare for this conjunction, which happens every approximately 36 years. Extraordinarily rare, though, for it to be at 0 degrees Aries. Very, very significant part of the zodiac. You can see that in what is unfolding in the world around us. It feels significant. What is shifting in our awareness is significant. What is crumbling, what is coming into our awareness as what we need to take a stand for, and what we need to see for what it is. So those deeper places of honesty and challenging ourselves to step up to what we are capable of being. So with Saturn and Neptune joining at 0 degrees Aries, which was exact on February 20th, but is really a very defining energy of several months. And the outer planets and their alignment, a defining energy of several years. Anyway, I won't go down that rabbit hole because I want to share with you about the lunar eclipse. So we've got Saturn and Neptune coming together at 0 degrees Aries at the significant point of new beginnings. 0 Aries. So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It is the sign that begins with the spring equinox. So we can think about that in a sense as the beginning of the year, even though our year kind of begins right after the winter solstice in the northern hemisphere. Springtime is really kind of that time of birth and babies and new growth and things turning green and the weather getting warmer and the days getting more daylight. So that Aries energy of new beginnings, of birth, of emergence, of seeds sprouting in the ground, of animals doing their nesting and having their babies. And so we're really taking advantage of that extra daylight that's coming, right? It's like, this is the time to put things in motion, to plant your seeds, to get things moving so that we can harness that energy of the extra daylight that's coming. That's kind of metaphorically the energy that we're talking about with Aries. Even though the irony that, of course, if you're in the southern hemisphere, it's reversed, but this is how we think of these archetypes. So first sign of the zodiac is Aries. The first degree of every sign is 0 degrees. So this is the beginning point of the beginning sign, and it is the beginning point of the 360 degrees of the zodiac. So very significant to have two planets coming together at that point. The planet of dreams, Neptune, the planet of myth and story, and our bigger picture of how we connect with our spiritual truths, how those spiritual truths speak to us, how we are listening to our hearts, how we are imagining what's possible. That's all Neptune. And then the energy of Saturn, which is about form and structure and embodiment and how things take shape. So even though they're kind of opposite, it brings together those energies in a way that says we can make our dreams real. We can imagine in terms of not just, anything is possible, but really we can connect with what do we want to have happen and how can we envision that in ways that help it to take shape, to come into being, to be given birth to, because you have that 0 degrees energy, Aries energy of new beginnings, combined with this energy of spirit being embodied with Saturn. So, in other words, big significant time that we're in right now of planting seeds, of beginning that process of imagining what we want and what steps we're going to take to bring it into being. What kind of actions do we need to take? What's our action step, right? What steps do we need to take? But also, where do we need to have courage? Where is courage going to awaken within us so that we can take those risks and that leap of faith that we need to imagine new things into being? In other words, not just to imagine them, but to create them in terms of tangible results and things that we want to see happen, things we want to create, projects we want to see come to fruition, all of that. So Saturn and Neptune, that energy, and I'm giving you this background because what's happening is that Mars, the ruler of Aries, is going from Aquarius, which is about ideas and ideals and authenticity and taking a stand for our uniqueness, our differences, our the ways that our differences have value in a community. Those are the kinds of themes of Aquarius, and Mars is, of course, how we take action. So Mars is going from Aquarius ideas into Pisces feelings, but also spirituality. And Pisces is a water sign. It is the water sign that sort of speaks to the big picture. So, there are, of course, there's Cancer and Scorpio as well. Cancer is more about the here and now. How do we embody like the way energy moves and how we feel about that? Scorpio takes us deep into the truth, into where we need to connect with what is happening below the surface. Pisces, though, takes us into the transcendence. So how we connect with transcendence and spirituality is not through ideas. It's not through what we're told to believe, but it is through how our hearts feel. And so this Pisces energy says, what is your intuition telling you? What is your heart saying? How are you listening to a bigger picture of wisdom and not sort of believing what you're being told without checking in with yourself? And so, there could be messages around you that are very valid and valuable, but how does that feel in your body? What's your body telling you? What's your heart telling you? What's your intuition telling you about what is true and what is right and what things mean and what you're going to do about it? So Mars, the planet of action, which rules Aries, the sign of this potent conjunction between planet of spirituality and transcendence and planet of form, Saturn coming together, the Mars energy matters. So when Mars goes from Aquarius to Pisces, it is our actions and our courage and the ways that we move and the ways that we take risks are going to be aligned with a different vibe. So with Aquarius, Mars in Aquarius, of course, we've got Pluto in Aquarius as well. But as Mars was in Aquarius for the last couple of months, we we had to act on what we think and information that's coming out and how we process that information and what it means as we connect pieces of information to paint a bigger picture and to shift our awareness and shift our consciousness. As Mars goes into Pisces, things will slow down. And so this image comes to me one time. I think it was in college. I had this opportunity to, I was taking classes in forensics, which is that's a whole nother story, rabbit hole. But um, I had this opportunity to get a tour of a police station. Obviously, not my zone of genius, but what I remember is they demonstrated how they do the forensics on bullets or guns that fire the bullets to match, they can match the scratch marks and so on and so forth when the bullet is fired from the gun to, try to identify a weapon or include or exclude, different weapons involved in crime. So anyway, the point is that how they do this is they fire the gun into a giant tank of water. And they explained to us that when you fire a gun into water, the bullet just slows down. It cannot go. Right? It's bullet guns and bullets are meant to fire. They're meant to be fast. They're meant to be destructive, right? But when you fire it into that tank of water, it only goes a few feet, the bullet, before it stops. And that's how they safely fire the gun. Anyway, the point of this story is that when you fire a bullet into water, it slows way, way down. And so we can think about this energy of Mars going into Pisces as like our actions are not going to be, it's like it goes, but then it disappears. We don't know where it's landing. It disappears in the fog. Like it's the energy and the impact of what we're trying to do gets slowed down. And so the point of this is that when we think about how to navigate these energies and how to think about our self-care with this Mars energy, which again is going to be the background for Saturn and Neptune and how we think about new beginnings, is that instead of firing, right? Instead of jumping off the cliff, taking the action, being forceful, like those things are not going to be as effective as is going to be listening to our hearts, listening to our wisdom, our intuition, checking in with what does that feel like in my body as I choose to move, perhaps in slower ways, but those slower ways might be more effective in getting me where I want to go or in creating what I want to create, the result I want to create. So we're not thinking of it as just run toward run toward the wall, leap off the cliff. I don't know, right? It's not that kind of energy. It's like slow down, ask yourself what feels right, check in, and then take that action that may not even be particularly visible, We also have Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So it might not even be obvious what you're doing with your action, but it's a choice you're making, right? And so even if you are making a choice to be silent or to wait and see what's going to happen, or to slowly move something in an unexpected way, those kinds of choices, which a decision is an action, decide means to cut away. And so when we decide, we are choosing one thing over another. So making a decision is an action, even if you're deciding to sit still or to wait or to be quiet and silent in that moment, or to pause or whatever, right? And it's not just about pausing, but that's an example of an action that doesn't look like a, what we normally think of as action, but it's a choice. And sometimes when we make that choice, or when we make it based on our intuition, what our heart is telling us, how we're connecting with that bigger picture of what is wise in this moment, then our actions, which may not look like actions, can be more powerful, more effective, helping us to get that result that we want to see. So that's how you want to think about the energy of Mars going into Pisces. And that is important to this eclipse. With the moon in Virgo, something is coming into the light of awareness. So all full moons reflect, right? They're reflecting the light of the sun. The moon itself does not give off light, it reflects the light of the sun. And that's what we see. And then the full moon is also an eclipse this time. So we have that alignment of the earth, the sun, and the moon all in the same plane, which kind of opens a gateway, some sort of energetic portal for something to shift. And with the energy of Virgo, for the full moon being in Virgo, it's about how we are embodying what it is we're embodying in in our day-to-day lives. So Virgo is about the here and now, the hands-on, what is tangible, what can you shape. Think about pottery, and you put your hands on the clay, the material, to shape it, to make something useful, something beautiful that has a totally different character than the raw material by itself, right? Just the lump of clay is very different from a finished pot or a teacup or whatever. So, really thinking about how you are, through your actions and choices, shaping what you want to see happen. And to be able to do that, and I talk about this a lot, right? To be able to shape what we want to see happen, we have to be clear about what we want to see happen. And what we want to see happen should be in alignment with something meaningful. So, something that speaks to you, something that speaks to your heart, to your spirit, to your soul. What is it you really want? What do you want to see happen? What kind of healing do you want? Like, really being clear about what you want. Again, not what you're afraid will happen. So watch for that. And we're human. So we have that tendency to go, oh, is it going to be okay? What's going to happen? But bring it back to, what do you feel in this moment? What are you noticing? What is coming to light for you, into your awareness, about how you can make choices to shape the things you want, and what is that you want in that bigger picture. So bringing it back to, what would we like to see, and how can you, in your your little, you're a drop in the ocean, but you're a drop that matters, right? Every drop in the ocean is really important to make up the whole ocean. So what you choose, what you do, and how you take the little, maybe even invisible actions, that is how you are participating in shaping the outcome. So, and I'm not saying don't do anything, that I'm just saying it might be that the appropriate thing to do is a pause. So it's just a thinking differently about actions and what they might look like. So an action could be a spontaneous interjection in a conversation, like, that's not what I believe, like something really simple and in the flow of the conversation, right? Like, that's the point, is that it's simple and it's in the flow and it's profound. Because right there in that moment, even though you're not coming in with a hammer to say, this is what I believe and I'm going to convince you, but just to have that more, think about it as a more subtle way of being authentic, right? So how is that energy flowing through you? What is it moving you to do? And how are you making choices moment to moment? Because you might have that. I mean, these moments are spontaneous. We don't necessarily plan them, but we can prepare for them. So preparing looks like trusting yourself and asking yourself what you want, what's important to me, what do I care about, and then living your life as if that is possible, first of all, right? Like, I believe we can do this. I believe in us. I believe, right? I could see this going in a positive direction. I don't know for sure that that's what will happen, but what I do know, and I'm talking about myself right now, this is me. What I do know is that we already have a lot of problems. So if I'm sitting here wondering, like, oh my gosh, is something bad gonna happen? It's like, well, duh, bad things are already happening, but that doesn't mean that we can't fix them. It doesn't mean we're powerless. It doesn't mean everything is over. What it means is that I can ask myself, what is the impact I can have today? Right? What little action can I take? And so maybe it's making a phone call. Maybe it's, sharing what you really think in a conversation. Maybe it's keeping your mouth shut, right? Because you're not going to be like somebody's looking for a fight and you're not giving it to them. Like, maybe it's that. I don't know. It could be lots of different things, but it's this energy of responding to what is showing up from that place of, I believe in what's possible. Here's my dream. Here's what I imagine, what I want, right? What I want is a good place to start. And here is what's true for me. And even just taking a stand with clarity from the inner knowing of who you are and what matters to you. So that Saturn resilience comes back to, what is your foundation? What keeps you going, right? And so how can you embody that and live your life according to that truth? So that is, my take on this eclipse is, with the Virgo full moon energy, we are bringing something to fruition that got planted with the Aquarius solar eclipse, and that 2 weeks ago, right? And that Aquarius solar eclipse energy, that, by the way, happened the same week as the Saturn Neptune conjunction. So the eclipse in Aquarius, solar eclipse in Aquarius, was on February 17th. The Saturn Neptune conjunction exact on February 20th. Saturn went into Aries on February 13th. So all of this has been changing quickly. And this lunar eclipse in Virgo is bringing us to that place of what needs to shift, what we're becoming aware of, and how we use what we're becoming aware of to get our hands on something, just like that pottery wheel, to shape something into what we want it to be. Do things go wrong? Yes. Do things happen that are, what we wished had not happened? Yes. Those things happen, right? That is what we're dealing with. That is the conditions we have. But it's not about the conditions, it's about what we do with those conditions. It's about how we choose in this moment and going forward. It's how we reorient ourselves to see ourselves as capable of making a difference, of bringing change, of participating in something that can have a positive outcome. Will everything we try be successful? No, right? We are that toddler learning how to walk. I guess a toddler already knows how to walk. So we're the pre-toddler becoming a toddler who can walk, and we're going to have to fall down. But is that a reason not to try? Of course not, right? The toddler will never become a toddler without trying and falling down. Falling down is part of the important process to get where the toddler is going. So that's true for us too. We are going to take risks. We are going to make mistakes. We are going to dust ourselves off and try again. And we can reorient in this process. And we might find, especially because these are such new energies, this is a new vibe we are stepping into. And 2026 really is kind of that threshold where we fully move into the new energies. We haven't, Uranus hasn't gone into Gemini yet, but that's coming soon as well. And then we'll have all the outer planets in air and fire signs, which, what happens when you blow air on a fire, right? So that is transformation that can be much more swift. But what we want to think about as these energies are shifting and changing the environment in which we are moving is that we want to think about that bigger picture of what matters and what is important, and to let that guide us in our falling down, in our risk taking, and remember what we want to create, because we can reorient ourselves and go, oh, wow, I tried that and that didn't work. Or maybe I learned some things, or maybe it worked, but only partially, or maybe it set me back even. But that's okay because we get to reorient, reground within ourselves, find that inner compass, listening to your heart, and take that next step, take that next risk, that next action. So even though this is earth and water full moon, and by the way, we also have Mercury retrograde in Pisces. So again, communication is not moving in a straightforward manner. Communication is much more complicated. Nonverbal communication becomes important. Listening at deeper levels, asking deeper questions, feeling the energy between the words, all of that is part of Mercury retrograde in Pisces. We also have Venus in Pisces, especially during the eclipse. So a lot of Pisces energy, what Mars, Sun, Mercury, Venus, and then of course we have Saturn and Neptune in early Aries, 1 and 2 degrees. So they're getting to be almost a degree apart now as of this eclipse. So That is how we can think about this full moon and lunar eclipse, is that with those earth and water energies, what is it we are shaping? How are we listening to a bigger picture of guidance, of wisdom, of our hearts, our souls, our spirits, a healing intention, right? Having an intention to bring about healing, even when we don't know exactly what that looks like or how to achieve it. That's what we're learning. And when we are in the energy of this ocean energy with all this Pisces energy, we can let ourselves be carried the current, right? Let ourselves be carried by that bigger current of where the greater wisdom wants us to go, and to trust that. That does not mean check out. It does not mean, let somebody else fix it, because a lot of this is pointing a big finger at each of us as individuals. Like, what are you going to do about it? So that's not to put pressure or stress on us, but it is to say, how can you respond? How can you listen to your heart? How can you show up and make choices in a way that's in alignment with that bigger truth that's important to you? What is meaningful to you? What you care about in that bigger picture? So those are my thoughts about the Virgo lunar eclipse on Tuesday, March 3rd. I also really encourage you to watch the Emergence guest speaker series, transformationalastrology.com. Sign up for a free account there. You can see all the interviews there. Choose the one that speaks to you. Listen to them all if you can. Each one has its own kernels of wisdom, and some might resonate for you more than others, but they all have just this beautiful message. And some messages we need to hear with our heads, some messages we need to hear with our hearts. It's got it all. So check out these beautiful and amazing guests who I am just so honored to spend time with and be present with. And the final interview of the series is with Vanessa Guy. Just amazing. She brings her own personal stories of challenge and grief to talk about how the Neptune and Capricorn generation, who was anyone born between 1984 and 1998 approximately, there could be some wiggle room at the beginning and the end, but that's the Neptune and Capricorn generation, what they have been promised, where they have been disillusioned, where they are having to find their own way. Just so powerful and fascinating and heart opening and deeply meaningful. So don't miss that one. They're all amazing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing to this YouTube channel. Transformationalastrology.com is where you can see the entire Emergence guest speaker series. I will be here next time with more astrology for unshakable self-care. I'll see you then.